Erling Haaland is overhyped. Everyone speaks about him like he's this god of football.
He probably does get slightly more chances than the average striker in the league, but I don't think you could call him overhyped.
Phil Foden has stepped up and is probably player of the season in the Premier League this year.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think he's in with it's a fair shout.
Marcus Rashford, he came out and he addressed his critics.
It's hard with footballers, yeah. They're normal people. So what if they're on 300 grand a week? People make mistakes. Pogba, I just felt so sorry for him. Let a player be himself.
Yeah.
He became like the symbol of that Manchester United era of just underperforming compared to Fergie year on year on year. It feels like it's sort of a desperate one last chance, like make it as like a world beater.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Football Trending, the football show from Joe that goes over all the biggest trending news from the week, plus all your shit opinions and a few games along the way. I'm joined by Ibby.
Thank you.
And Ben.
Hello.
He's a social media manager. Remember, if you really hate what Joe does,
It's because of him.
just at Ben instead.
Yeah.
Save yourself the time.
LinkedIn, Instagram, I've got it all.
Ben Hook.
Come at me on any platform.
E on the end, don't forget the E. And Joel's still here, producer Joel.
Good morning, boys.
Good morning, Charlie.
How are we doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, mate. Good, very well.
Good.
Look, let's get straight into it. There was a massive game. There was lots of football the weekend, but the biggest game of the weekend was the Manchester derby, which, going into it, we all thought that Manchester City were going to win quite comfortably.
They did,
And,
eventually.
They did eventually,
Yeah.
but let's talk about that first half then. Let's kick off by talking about the game, the flow of the game, and basically that first half specifically.
As that game went on, I honestly thought Man United could do this.
Yeah.
They could do it. It honestly felt like a League Two club versus a Premier League club. Just sitting back on the counter, but then City does what City does best, and they found the pocket. Shout out to Onana, by the way.
Yeah,
All the
kept him in
hates
it.
he's getting,
Kept him in it.
he kept them in it. Should have saved Phil Foden's goal, but he kept them in it.
Oh, fucking hell.
That's
Come on
hard.
to that. Ben, what did you think? First 45 minutes?
I thought it was a really good game. I actually watched it without sound, which was an interesting experience. No commentary, so I was like, it's weird when I came into work not knowing the actual narratives of the game from Sky Sports, but I thought City they came out really hot and really sharp, and I thought the first 5-10 minutes I was like, United are going to get cooked. It's going to be, it could get deep at one point because they were just Onana was keeping them in it. Last ditch tackles, I was like, the XGs are going to XG at some point. It's gonna come through, and then obviously the Rashford goal, and as you said, as the half went on, I was like, they actually could, because it's one of those things that United have done over the years, to City, to other teams, where it's been they don't look like they're in a game, and then they just do something special, and the Rashford goal is up there with I can't remember too many better goals this season.
Strike,
off the underside of the crossbar makes it look and sound
the bar. The bar is just, when you're talking about aesthetics.
Yeah.
You
If
want
the
it to
ball
hit the
smashes
bar,
the bar, you're
Yeah.
that's a bit of me.
It's the fact that Edison went for it
Yeah,
full
full
strength.
strength.
Goalkeeper stretching helps.
That's like a super,
Yeah.
next season's promo will have that goal in
Oh,
it.
yeah,
him
all
stretching
100%,
across.
yeah.
And that, I think you spoke about XG there, but I think the XG on that one was 0.02.
That's crazy.
So not an expected goal by any stretch of the imagination. Unlike,
Phil Foden's.
no,
That was also
Erling
I know, I should have saved
Haaland's.
it.
Yeah.
Erling
the miss.
Haaland's.
Yeah.
Erling Haaland's miss. I want to speak to you because you both play football. We've all played football. I want to talk to you about that moment where you realise that you're going to go with it with your knee, but you should have gone with your head,
I mean,
basically.
it's literally, he just has to get anything off
Yeah.
it. It could have hit his dick and it would have gone in.
So-
genuinely.
I'm going to make a point here. The first week I came into this company, I said something. That
Just so
Erling
there's-
Haaland is overhyped. And what
Clip it.
happens? Clip it, put it on social. Man City fans come for me. But
Did you not see what happened to
Rory Jennings. Yeah. I was going to say, just pop him in the same.
That's fine.
I'll message Rory after this. And
Rory,
Rory,
my boy.
remind him.
we'll make our own little show with our beautiful takes. He's overrated. He misses too many chances. Chances like that. Thierry Henry's not missing that. Suarez isn't missing
that is
Every
such
player
a
misses
fallacy.
these
Every
chances.
No,
every player
but that
misses
chance
these
is crazy,
I
by
think
the
he's
way.
gone with it. If anything, Jeff, he's hit it too well. It's
Oh,
literally
that- that'll chest
he's-
up.
he's gone-
It's an
if-
awful miss.
If
but
he accepts early on that it's not gonna be well hit,
Yeah.
well struck, I think he probably scores because he just like, you see what Messi did in where like he lets it hit him.
He just would have shepherded it
He
in,
lets it
like,
hit his chest.
Yeah.
I think if Haaland does that, it goes in. He's just committed early to a nice side foot.
Because he's on the up as well.
Yeah.
As soon as he makes contact, that ball is always going up.
Going up.
Because he's running onto it.
But that's what I mean.
It's a much more difficult it's an awful miss.
Yeah.
When you're trying to finish with your instep, it's a much more difficult finish than
I think he gets up, doesn't he, earlier than probably he'd like to. And then once you're up, you realise that you probably could have just stood still and
just
sort of moved into the ball.
Lacking striker's instinct. Honestly,
because if that's one thing Erling Haaland,
I'm sorry, I love Haaland.
He was very bad.
I think he's an amazing striker.
That's fucking crazy.
That's crazy.
I think he's an amazing striker.
I'm trying to save you from yourself here because this is going to get clipped.
It's already being edited, mate.
Jason, our social, is like nodding in the background.
Sweating. This is actually my honest opinion on this shit.
Okay.
Haaland, one of the best strikers in the world, but he's overhyped because of his goal scoring, like the little
his goal
stint
scoring record, as all strikers.
Famously, goal scoring is not.
If only we judged fewer strikers.
But as in, like, he misses so many chances. Honestly, he misses so many.
He misses chances, but more. If you watch most strikers week in, week out, they miss a bunch of chances.
Overhyped.
No, not a chance. You can't cover like his goal scoring record here, as well as Dortmund, and even before that, is sickening.
We'll do a segment next week on
Darwin
chances.
Nunes.
The Liverpool fan.
Best strikers broken down by like goals per chance, because I think that's actually how
he outperformed.
You're
his
right
XG.
to judge strikers by that metric in terms of, because there was this thing about Sturridge for a long time where it was like he scored a lot of goals in a single season, but actually if you looked at it compared to how many shots he took, it was probably was average in terms of his conversion. So I think it's that's the metric that you should judge strikers by, but I don't think Haaland is. I don't think he gets more. He probably does get slightly more chances than the average striker in the league, but I don't think you could call him overhyped based on.
I'm calling it overhyped just
currently
because
the Premier League's top goal scorer
of the way everyone speaks about him and the way he like performs. Everyone speaks about him like he's this god of football, that he's gonna score like 50 goals a season, and he just doesn't.
He sort of did last year, to be fair.
He did, yeah. Although he outperformed his XG massively last year, whereas he's actually I was about to say he's in line with his XG this year. Well, whereas I think maybe you're absolutely entitled to your opinion, but I'm just gonna have to.
If he's shit takes, expecting shit takes.
Before anyone says, "Oh, he's doing this for the cameras, he's doing this for the views," just remember
he said this day one.
The day one I came into this company,
he said day one,
and Ben said he's gonna put it on a whiteboard,
and that's when I almost thought, "Have I made a massive mistake?"
It's nice to know you've been deluded the entire time, not just not just this morning.
Let's take it back to the game. Half-time comes round. Man United have played very well on the counter-attack. Onana's been brilliant. He's kept them in it.
Yeah.
I think all of us thought, if Man United carry on like this, but how sustainable is that style of
it's
football?
so tough.
Against a Manchester City side, that turns the screw really well and is now very used to playing against the deep line block. I thought United, at the beginning of the first 10 minutes of the second half, had 2 or 3 chances to play Garnacho through, to play Rashford through, and didn't. And then comes a massive point in the game, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think about it, is Rashford does get played through and Walker seems to collide with him very slightly.
Ten Hag was not happy.
And I want to understand where you guys sit on this as to whether it was because obviously then they go down the other end and what happens. But I want to talk to you guys about, what do you think when you see that coming together? Foul, not a foul, not enough in it. What do you think?
I don't think you're getting that in the derby.
Yeah, I don't think it's a foul. I feel like every footballer feels a bit of contact and they think they could go down. But I just feel like when you watch it back, you're like, that contact was just not enough to go. Like,
but doesn't that happen all the time, all over the pitch, where you're like, that's not enough, but they've gone down?
Yeah, but it's because it's like he's on the way to scoring a goal. If it was in his own half,
it's a foul.
It's a foul.
It's crazy though.
If anything, the player will grab the ball. So
we
now
do see that all the time though.
Yeah.
Soft free kicks getting given all over the pitch. And you're like, well, I know for a fact that you wouldn't get a penalty for that.
No,
if
of
it was
course
up the
Yeah, but I
other
don't
end,
think you should.
Do you think?
I do think it should be a
it's
high.
fine.
If I could like. In a weird world of football that this could possibly happen, I would actually split the pitch so that so that there's a hierarchy of fouls. So like the middle of the pitch.
There is though. It's just unwritten.
Yeah, it's unwritten.
Yeah.
It's like uncodified constitution.
Yeah.
But like, I think fans sometimes, and you hear it like when you play on a Saturday or Sunday, you're like, oh, ref, you're never gonna like if that's in the box, you're never gonna give that. I'm sort of like, yeah, nobody wants that to be given.
Yeah, I
like,
actually agree with that.
especially like there's
No
a thing
one
with like
wants
the corner of the
those pens given.
box.
And they're not really these days. That's one thing they have tried to stamp down on is those softer ones.
Yeah.
Like, the ones where someone gets a slight.
They're
Not given nearly like they were a couple of years ago. But this one, at first glance, I thought not a foul. And then I saw it this morning from
There's
a
like a
different
clip,
angle where he clips his ankle.
Yeah.
And I thought, because the speed they're going at, that's obviously going to...
It's enough.
it's Walker versus Rashford. That's two of the speediest guys in the Premier League, right? I did think you would go down. I can't run very fast, but if someone clips me, I'm going down.
Yeah. And also, when it's Walker behind you, knowing
exactly.
how quick he is, naturally you would go down.
Okay, so we're saying not a foul?
Not for me.
Not a foul?
Not a foul.
Not a foul? Not a
No
foul?
foul, no
And
foul.
I'm going to say was a foul.
Okay.
I think it was a foul. I think it was in a fair enough position. I think the collision with his leg. All I can say is I can understand why Ten Hag was fuming. But United have a lot to do then as the ball starts going back the other way. There's a lot of opportunities in between that and Phil Foden coming inside and
Wrapping that.
rocketing it into
Unbelievable.
the corner. Which you think that Onana should have saved?
Nah. I have bad takes, but you should have seen that. You got buried.
The worst call of the weekend is actually the Liverpool one. Liverpool being gifted a goal because of the pro-Klopp agenda
might as well
that
talk
the
about
Premier
that
League
now.
currently has.
I cannot believe that I'm about to sit here and defend Paul Tierney, who has been one of the worst officials in Liverpool games in recent history.
But you're going to find a way.
do you know
This
what
is
it
why
is?
fandom is stupid, though, right? Because Joel's about to say that Paul Tierney's been a massive thorn in Liverpool's side, and now he's finally helped them. And the reality is that it all just fucking happens all the time.
Do you know what it is? There was a very similar incident in the first half with the drop ball where it went Forest's way. Now,
So you think they're just evening it out?
Yeah.
no, at least it was consistent. It may well be wrong,
But Forest had
but
the
he is
ball.
applying
Forest had
it the
the
same,
ball.
Forest
the same way.
quite literally had the ball.
And the law is because the ball is in Liverpool's box as the incident happens, the referee is entitled to give it back to the goalkeeper.
Is that actually true?
Yeah, it is. I looked
I
up.
didn't know
Wow.
that. I didn't know
Great
that.
rule.
Because it's
Jason,
in
make
the
a note
box.
of that.
Yeah.
We'll definitely put that out, and then everyone can tell us
And
if he's
then if
talking
it's
shit.
wrong,
Oh, yeah, please.
That's something that I saw this. But I mean,
If you've made that up, I'm convinced.
And also
Yeah.
the-
If you
That
made it
was
up, it's a
really
great
good from
rule.
you either
But
way.
all of these football players hadn't heard of it.
Or great
The goalkeeper hadn't
bullshitting.
heard of it.
and also,
I'm not gonna lie, I never heard of it.
and
I thought we
also
were just
the-
being genuine. This guy, like,
I think that's what it was. I'll double check it. I'll see if I can find it
No,
before
we'll
the
leave
end
it
of
at
the
that.
show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on.
And the other thing is though, as well, talking about like the
We've
conspiracy
got
side of
started
it.
on Liverpool now.
If there was a conspiracy for
no
Liverpool to win
conspiracy.
yesterday, Paul Tierney would have given the obvious penalty 10 minutes prior to the goal on Jayden Danns when he was fucking WWE'd to the ground.
by the way, he's 18 as well, so
Yeah.
Crazy.
What does that mean?
It was just,
Oh,
I mean, the
that
main
makes
thing
it
that
even
was,
worse. by the
right,
way,
okay.
the main thing is that it was about 3 minutes over injury time, but
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Ben, I'm going to ask
that's
you.
one.
Ben, I'm going to ask you if you know what the word minimum means in this context.
It's interesting that people always bring that up because they actually very rarely play the minimum
Yeah.
amount
Yeah.
of time.
2 nibs though. We'll take that.
Let's move it back to
Other Reds.
the game we're talking about because the Liverpool game, apart from the owner coming on the pitch and
was
chasing
nuts,
Paul
by the
Tierney,
way.
that's
crazy.
That's crazy.
I'm
We're
weird
in
for that.
we are back into quite like a classic era of football now.
Well,
I feel
I'm
like
here
we're
for it.
getting more weird stuff again,
Yeah,
which is
it's
quite
good.
nice. We've gone full circle from like. I know there's like a very sanitized part of football, but there's definitely a crazier edge to football these days, and I'm kind of liking it. Anyway, take it back to this game. Phil Foden cuts inside. What's gone wrong for United that means they have no one inside there to cover that motion? Because all I can think is who's stopping him coming inside there?
It has to be Casemiro.
I think there's,
Nowhere near him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Nowhere near.
I think
Casemiro
there's two things. When you play that way, there's risk in terms of like you are just inviting them to be close to your box.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah, but then-
play teams with like real quality, I don't know, Man City, for instance, can expose that when like just any amount of discipline is lost. Or even if you just make an error and you're sitting slightly too deep, like I think United's players were sort of in their own box and it's ball sort
were.
of 25
Yeah.
yards out. And I think it's a case of like discipline versus and concentration.
Concentration.
And then also the whole strategy, the risk of it is someone on the opposite team could do something
the
really
reason I bring-
special.
the
And
reason
I
I
sort of
bring
think I attribute it more to Foden than I do United's lack of.
No, the reason I bring this up is because I felt like Casemiro in the
Yeah.
second half couldn't get near anyone.
Yeah, I actually
Anyone.
agree with
Wasn't
that.
even on a booking.
It was like there was 1-2 around him where it was like it was the Foden, the second goal.
Yeah.
It was like he was running through like mustard. Like the geezer could not move.
That famous phrase.
No, but it was really weird. From first half, like he was really solid in the first half. Second half, he was off it. Like-
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, can he not do 90 minutes at that intensity anymore?
Yeah.
And like Kobe Mainoo, props to him. I thought he was
I thought
the
he was very
coolest
good.
head on the pitch in the United in red. Again, which he keeps having these performances. I
Came
think
to the
you know,
Euros.
he has to go to the Euros.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
he has to
He's
get
getting
like,
there.
like what more do we need to see from him?
He's playing himself onto the plane for sure, I think.
100%
He
playing
is.
himself onto that. Especially with Curtis Jones' injury, I think it would have been between them for my money. But he, again, yesterday, every single time I watch United, and I've watched him quite a lot recently, he has just been so calm on the ball in those areas where City want to trap you. You know, there's 5 players.
Yeah.
And he's played a 1-2 with Marcus Rashford at one point where I was like, there's no way he gets out of there. And he moves them right up the pitch. But yeah, even he didn't stand a chance for that goal. And then the second goal, again, Foden again. I think we're talking about. I said it to you guys. I when Gundogan left,
Yeah.
I was worried. Not worried. I thought City might struggle without those goals from midfield because the goals that Gundogan scored.
He came in clutch last year quite a lot.
Exactly. Every goal was a big goal. Every goal was an important goal, and some of them were just amazing goals.
Yeah,
as
the
well.
FA Cup final,
Oh my God.
like 10 seconds in.
Oh my God. But Phil Foden has stepped up and is probably player of the season in the Premier League this year.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think he's in with it's a fair shout.
I'm looking at it now, probably, yeah. But also,
I'm open to other suggestions. I'd love to hear them. Who are we saying as like player? You know, there's only
I'd say
how
they're all
many-
City
Salah-
players.
How many
They're all
games
City
left?
players.
there, Salah's up
13,
there.
13 games left, 12 games left.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on who actually ends up winning the league as well. I think that plays a big part. in
Yeah,
it.
I mean, yes and no, because that's more of an individual. I don't like individual awards being judged on team. I like it being judged on.
But I
how
feel
well
like
you've played
naturally
the
they'll
game.
always.
I think
have to-
Rodri
they-
has to be annoyed at some
I
point
think
that he doesn't get some form of individual
Yeah.
award because
Yeah.
of you'd say about like not the league winning team not making a difference, but last year he won the treble with City and his record City's record without him versus with him is like they only win 50% of their games without
That's
him
crazy
compared to 80-90% of winning the games with him. So I think Rodri's probably
I mean, he's just
shout.
probably one of the best midfielders in the Premier League.
Who remembers
history.
when Rodri went down in the Club World Cup and everyone's like, yes, Messi's winning the league, and he comes back.
But so who you said someone, Joe? Who's your player of the season in the
So-
Premier League?
In the Premier League.
In the Premier League, lots of good performers. I think
Nunes.
lots of
Yeah,
like,
I think actually this year there's not as clear
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
shout.
Yeah, that's what I
I think that which is
don't
great.
think that there are players who have performed better than others, but there isn't a chasm. Like there isn't.
No, absolutely not. Like, 'cause
Nobody's done it all the way through
I
the
would say,
season.
I'd say
like-
Heung-min Son for me.
Shout,
I watch him
yeah.
every week. He's been brilliant for us. He's scored really important goals. He's become a creator. He's now the captain of the club,
Yeah.
and he's been incredible, along with a couple of other players. But again,
Yeah.
for me, if you said he's player of the season, I'd be like,
yeah, again,
Foden
Saka
Saka
has been
Declan-
great.
Declan Rice.
Declan
Rice
Rice
has got a good
definitely
shout,
a
yeah.
shout. But that's same as Rodri then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, overall, I think Rodri is better than Declan Rice, so
Yeah.
Declan Rice can't win it
It's
in my head
it's
anyway.
tough, and that's why I think Phil Foden has a real shot at it because he's scoring really big, important goals in games where they're needed.
That's
It's
the
probably the
difference.
next 10
That's the
games that
difference, isn't
decide it.
Yeah.
Seeing him making that step up to becoming a player for those clutch moments
Yeah.
in those big games, that is when you identify that a player has hit
Yeah.
the next level.
Yeah.
And he's doing it in
He's doing it instead of
perfect
De Bruyne
time.
In the
and
Euros
Haaland.
year as well.
Yeah.
Euros year is the
Let
time
him
to do it.
cook.
Look, that's what I tweeted it yesterday. I was like, all I'm excited about is this Phil Foden in a potential front four of, if you say Foden plays left, Saka plays right, Bellingham plays behind Kane, and then you have Rice and someone else.
Fucking come on, it's coming home.
That is exciting. That. Look, let's not get
early,
carried
it's
away.
too
Let's not
early
get carried
for
away.
Euros. Too early for Euros fever. Save it.
But yeah, no, I think he was playing basically a free role. Him and Bernardo Silva were all over the pitch yesterday. Him, Bernardo Silva, and De Bruyne actually were just popping up left, right, centre, left, right.
Did you see the
centre.
stat that the graphic that Sky Sports put up on their average positions of both teams at half time?
No.
How pinned back
Yeah.
United.
and on United was, but everything was going down the right hand side, which was Foden's side, right? Everything was just going down Foden's side, and they got 2-3 goals out of it. So
No, but look, well, Foden got one from the right, and then he got one from the left,
Yeah.
right, where he drifted across,
Yeah.
played the 1-2, and finished it off lovely. I mean, and then the third goal, we have to talk about Amrabat. We have to talk about Sofiane Amrabat, and look, that was it. I was going to come on to it, but there's always one player that gets signed from a brilliant World Cup, and to be fair, a very good season last season.
Yeah.
But this it's a loan signing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a loan signing. This
Get him
it's going to go onto every list in the country's
It's a clanger,
top
innit?
10
It's an
worst
utter clanger.
loan signings. And it was a bit of a suicide pass that he was passed that he got, but you just have to know when to get rid of it, basically, don't you? Just
What I'll say about United is they're the club that is always going to be in that list because of the money they spend and
I
the
agree.
way. And so, I also think at United they're the really obvious example of like maybe potentially good players not performing in a bad environment. Because I think if you put Amrabat in if you put him at Spurs, who seems to be have a great environment at the moment under Ange, or City, or whoever, where there's like a real consistency, a real clarity, I think that allows players, some really good players to flourish, but also maybe more average players to flourish
100%.
as well. And I think Amrabat was never the type of footballer to go somewhere and be like, I'm going to dominate midfield with how good I am technically. He was always going to be a battler. And I think he's the sort of person that in a bad system where United are sort of trying to play at points, but not with the same coherence that City, Arsenal, Spurs do, where it's like real clear vision of like, just watching it from the outside, I could tell you that's the way they do things. United have just got this inconsistency in style and that sort of thing. And it means that someone like Amrabat, who I think isn't necessarily the most technically like superior footballer, he's not in Rodri's league. He's a fighter more than he is a deep line playmaker, for instance. I think it's harsh on him to say, receive the ball under pressure all the time and turn and play on the half turn, spin, like what Busquets and Rodri do.
I get that.
I think it's harsh to actually pin it on him when actually, and also he's not got regular minutes, so he's not going to come in and be super sharp.
That's a big issue. Like, there's lots of circumstances that kind of allow him a lot of leeway here. I think not playing a lot of football is the biggest one, right? Footballers have to play themselves in and out of form. You have to be given the minutes, and he's definitely not been given the minutes. But unfortunately, that's not what will be judged on. He won't be remembered as like, he wasn't given a fair shot. He'll be remembered for when he was on the pitch, his
fumbled.
impact was not good enough. And also he was played probably out of position for. He's played like
More
left
often
back.
than he's played in
fucking
position.
right
Crazy.
back. Like, he's been all over, and I feel really because I think I definitely wasn't alone in watching him at the World Cup after a great season and being like, someone should get this guy.
Yeah.
Like, he was so good.
I didn't think
Cup.
it would be a top 6 club though.
You know,
thought
Spurs
that
were
would be
Spurs
like-
were linked with him quite a while, and then
We were
United,
linked with him for a while.
and then United spent way too long trying to get him in, and it just hasn't quite.
But I
worked.
was
got
actually having a
confused between the
conversation
Europa League
with an
and the
agent
Conference League.
on Saturday,
Yeah.
and he was like, players just need to stop going to United.
I don't understand why you would now.
Yeah,
Apart
like,
from
honestly.
the money and the money and the grandeur of the club. That's it.
But it's just like you're literally shooting yourself in the foot. Going to a new club's always going to be a risk.
it's tough. Yeah.
But going to United, that risk is just increasing. Of
It's
failure.
the potential to turn it around that I think is the final temptation, where it's like you've seen it's been, because in these clubs, like in these like transfer dealings, you have meetings with managers, like with directors of football,
They'll sell it to you.
and they'll sell it to you as like, look, it's not been going right, but this
You're the
summer
guy.
we're going to sign this guy. You're the guy. Like, we've just signed this person. They sell you this dream, and it's like, and then you're not thinking about what's gone. You're thinking about the potential of the next. You could be the guy that turns it around for Manchester United, club legend, goes down in folklore at one of the biggest clubs in the world. And I think that's why you potentially would go there. But yeah, as you
It's
say,
like, I
at the moment
really-
the environment just isn't there. It needs to be built. It needs an Arsenal of what Arteta, but it's like stripped of deadwood, allowed young players to flourish. It creates a better culture. You strip it back so it's like, these are the standards, this is the environment we want, and you do it with players that are willing to accept that. Whereas I would imagine it's very hard to tell someone on 300 grand a week, you are like, this is what you're going to do now, because as soon as you pay them 300 grand a week, their ego, their mind is going, I'm
that guy.
I don't need to change. You're paying me 300 grand a week.
Yeah.
I am worth this.
But
Why
also,
would I change?
there's clearly there's still a problem in part ownerships. The manager hasn't managed to get across the way that he wants to play football. It's regressing, if anything. There's loads of issues. Loads of issues. And I completely agree. I don't understand with the options that are out there at the moment, especially a club like Arsenal, for instance, but as a proposition. And you can see how players these days really enjoy a system. Because it's very black and white what their job
exactly
is then.
what to do.
Someone like Kyrgios come into the Arsenal side and looked really comfortable.
It's like Rashford, when he first burst onto the scene, he was like this young, wholesome kid who just wanted to play football. And now look at the way his career's gone.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that brings us very nicely onto, that's a lovely segue, about Marcus Rashford. Before the game, he'd written a piece in the Players Tribune, which finished with, "If you back me, good. If you doubt me, even better." And we went out to the streets of Manchester to see how people felt about Marcus Rashford addressing some of his critics.
If the media's speaking against him, then he's got a right to reply.
Do you sympathise with him somewhat then?
Sympathise? I'm not sure. It's part of the game for them now, isn't it? To deal with the media. If you're going to do what you do when he went off to Dublin and stuff like that, then you're asking for trouble, aren't you? But I do think they should have kept that in house. But everybody knew, and then he just becomes a target. And his performances on the pitch aren't helping him neither, are they? So
I get why he's trying to do it. Obviously, I'm a City fan, and he's trying to G the United fans up. He's a hometown lad, but when you've had a year as bad as him, should you really be looking to media to try and G your fans up? I don't know.
Do you think it is a PR exercise more than anything?
100%. It has to be a PR exercise. He is a king of PR nowadays, and he's very good at it. He's done countless great things for the community, great things for people of Manchester, great things for people of Britain. But he's underperforming on the field, and I think that's showing with him looking for a PR stunt, really.
Do you think if he came through on the blue side of Manchester, he would have had a better career?
It's a hard one. I don't know if he'd got in the team. I know that sounds cocky, but I don't know if he'd got in the team.
Do you not think with maybe how City have treated Phil Foden, do you not think he would have benefited from maybe being in a less turbulent environment?
I've got a friend here who's got a different opinion on some of the things we've done to the U-team players. He wanted to keep Cole Palmer.
Yeah.
So maybe it wouldn't have worked out. I don't know.
yeah, he'd have a lot of trophies and medals, wouldn't he? That's it.
Do you think he would have been a better player?
Absolutely, because he wouldn't have get away with what he's doing now under Pep.
I think he's one of the better players in Manchester United, and I think he'd play really well at Manchester City. As Pep Guardiola said, he's the only player that he would take out of Manchester United, so I think he'd fit right in.
Not gonna lie, I think he would turn out to be a better player, better coaching, better environment. I mean, look at Foden. You know, he's starting every week now. He's kind of that win against Bournemouth 1-0. You know, he's the only player that could have done that. And I think if Rashford was starting for City, I don't think he'd first of all get into this team personally. But I think if he was coached from an 18-year-old here, I think he'd be England's best player.
I think Pep openly said it in interviews where he said that the only player good enough to play for me for Manchester United is Marcus Rashford. And obviously he's had a great career with United, and as a City player, could he have done better? In my opinion, yes. He's got all the talent there. He hasn't really been able to sort of prove that himself, especially looking at sort of previous years and maybe the players that he's played with, the systems that he's played, the managers played under. He would have been better under City, but would I have had him? No, personally.
Okay, so what do we think? Marcus Rashford, he came out and he addressed his critics in the Players Tribune, sort of said that there's been a lot of lies written about him, a lot of mistruths written about, spoken and written about him over the past few months, years. I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on that and just a general sort of feeling on how you feel about him going out and doing a piece like that.
I think it's such a techie one with Marcus Rashford. I honestly think the stuff about mistruths and lies, I feel for him. I do feel like there's been a lot of hate and a lot of backlash in the media. He's made mistakes, don't get me wrong, but also it's so hard playing for Man United. And honestly, if you're in that environment, I understand why a player would struggle to stay focused, because it's so hard to go training every day. And like you hear about bad training ground, you hear about coaching's poor, to kind of stay focused. And it's hard with footballers, yeah. I always say it, they're normal people. Yep. Not me because I don't drink, but we've all gone out and we've all had a drink before work and we've all come in. So what if they're on 300 grand a week? People make mistakes, but it's just the backlash of football fans. And we all know how I feel about football fans. But yeah, I think it's incredibly harsh. I think even doing that piece, it won't make it any better for him, because football fans or people have made their opinion, and it's so hard to change someone's opinion once it's been created. Do you know what? You're going to change a few opinions. Yeah, you'll win over people on the fence. Yeah. But overwhelmingly, you're right. It is tough to people will make judgments based on what they want to believe as well a lot of the time. Yeah. If Marcus Rashford was playing brilliantly, his best footballer of his career, no one would care that he was out having a drink. Exactly. And that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. It's not really about him as a person. It's not him having a drink. It's because his performances, in certain people's eyes, aren't where they need to be. Yeah. And whether that's even true is another discussion altogether. I think I say this to you quite a lot. No footballer wants to play badly. No footballer turns up on a Saturday and goes, do you know what? I'm going to drop a stinker today. I'm going to drop a 1 out of 10 just because I fancy it. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. So like the reality is when players don't play in the fans' eyes to the levels that they should, the player already knows that. Yeah. And also he will have analysts from the club explaining you didn't do this right. You weren't in this position at that time. We needed you here. You didn't quite make that run in that time. Yeah. So I often think players know when they haven't played well, right? Like there's no naivety there. And I think what Marcus Rashford has done is come out and sort of said, look, I'm a Manchester United fan through and through. I'm one of you. So understand that it hurts me and it hurts you as much as it hurts you when we're not doing well. I don't know. What do you think?
I think Rashford is actually a really good just overall example of a lot of different parts of football culture and like media culture. Because I think, as you said, the media element of the game, I think, is so unbelievably toxic. Toxic. When I like this, it was my job previously to sort of like manage media at a lower level at Swindon Town. But we had like a story that never came out in the end because I stopped it going out. But it was like player hit a run of form and a very not well liked newspaper had a story on him and had just banked it for when this player hit form. And it was quite literally, we build them up to knock them down. Yeah. And Rashford is probably the ultimate example of that, where during lockdown, so incredible work, did things that we want football, that I think fans and general people want footballers to do. And I think fake stories and basically writing shit about him is part of bringing down someone who is popular in the public eye because it will get clicks. But then part of me is like, I think going out in Belfast and not training is just like, it's silly, but I don't want footballers to be robots. I actually want football to be a bit imperfect because it creates these redemption arcs and it creates these narratives where actually, like, overall, since he's gone out in Belfast, his form has probably got slightly better. Yeah. So I'm not going to knock him, like, because to an extent, if I played in this Man United team, every so often I think I'd want to drink. That's what I'm saying. Like just the pressure, the toxicity of the fan base and media outlets specifically around Manchester United as well, which he sort of addressed basically. Yeah. I think it's just this whole, and I think overall you want to relax. And if the way Marcus Rashford does that is going out midweek after a day off, then like fair play to him, because the week after, he went and scored against Wolves. And then since then he's scored. But I think the other problem with Rashford is sometimes his body language on the pitch doesn't line up to what a fan wants.
100%, but there's about, look at the other 10 players as well, doing the same thing.
But there are some players, as you said, whereas last year he was the exact same footballer with the exact same body language, the exact same history. And it was going well. And he scored 17 goals in the league, loads of assists, loads of goals, won the Carabao Cup with United. So I think, and it is all about context, because like when I was at Swindon, players drank midweek. We won the league. Did
Okay.
any fan care? Saw him out in Swindon Town at the pub. Hello, mate. Nice to see you. And it was like, actually, people liked it because it's like,
'Cause you're doing
cool,
well.
this good team is
you're doing
really
well.
down to earth
Yeah.
and really like
Exactly.
really normal. So ultimately, players can't win.
No.
I think media and fans, when they take it too far, because a lot of football fans are normal and don't mind it one way or the other. When fans get obsessed, and there is a big online presence of fans that take it to the nth degree, where it is abuse, racism, badgering, stalking, whatever it is. That is the part of it that I'm like with Rashford 100%. I think the other part of it is actually, I think he'd be okay, fans saying, I didn't think you played very well the other week. I don't think that you run hard enough, whatever it is. But I think he would disagree with them, as he has done in his article. But I'm sort of just okay with Rashford saying exactly what he said, because I think he's generally right.
100%.
And it's probably coming from the right person, because he is the embodiment of this debate for our generation.
Yeah, agreed.
I think as well, like talking about fans, obviously you have people that take it too far. As football fans, we are all entitled. Like there is a sense of entitlement, regardless of who you support. And they have an easy way in, really, again, because they spend their entire lives in the public eye, and because they are paid incredible amounts of money for what it is they're doing, fans see that as a way in and see that as a justification for saying what they want. And as you said, if it's stuff like your body language not lining up with what fans expect of you, this, that, and the other, it's far too easy for fans to then pile on and say that you're not doing your bit, you're not doing this, that, and the other. Look at what Rashford does away from the full pitch. No one should really give a shit, right? If he's feeding kids and doing good things for people and good things for the country, who gives a fuck? No one should be piling in for that. If your performance is on the pitch, even if it's nothing to do with that, if you're then not performing, people will see that as an easy in.
I would also
poke
say
there.
one of the things that I really hated about those Vox Pops are very specific. It was like, oh, if he puts himself up in the media spotlight, then expect to get shut down. I was like, he didn't put himself in the media spotlight. He campaigned for
That's
a
what
really
I
good
mean.
cause.
Yeah.
It's like, you know the film Goal with Santiago Munez? You know Gavin Harris, where he's like in clubs every weekend, like man about town, like in Newcastle, in the city, like making yourself the big man. Then I'm sort of a bit less sympathetic, where it's like, you want all of this attention.
That was
And
the thing.
with that comes the
Yeah, but
negative
that's what-
side of it. Rashford hasn't done that. He hasn't
Exactly.
attracted
You have to understand,
the
that's what
gossip
people-
columns. He's doing stuff in like
But
a
that's what
positive
people
way.
perceive. You saw how many people mention PR now. Football fans are smart to certain elements now, but the idea that people do this stuff just for PR, like
crazy.
they take up so much of their time, they take up so much of their, you don't get a lot of free time as a footballer if you're choosing to do it, and lots of other footballers aren't. It's not just PR. He's still at Man United. It's not like he's got his big move, is it? He's not doing it for PR. He's doing it because genuinely he cares about it. And I can say, as someone who worked for the Players Tribune for 2 years, when a player comes to you with these pieces, it's not just because they need PR. It's because they have something to say. They have something to get off their chest, and they need somewhere that they know they can do it in a safe space, that they can say it in the way that they want to say it. And I thought it was another really good piece by them. I thought that that he has handled it really well. It was almost the fairy tale story, wasn't it?
It was
almost the fairy tale story. But that's City. City will get you, and they'll get you as well, Liverpool boys, and they'll get Arsenal boys that are watching as well.
Not this
It's a
weekend, they won't.
Matter of time. All right, let's move on then. Another big story from the last few days was that Paul Pogba's career is basically over. He was charged with a drugs cheat abuse, which will basically see him to the end of his career.
It'll be 34. Was it 34 when it's over? 2028, I think so. Yeah.
And he won't have played for several years. So we went out onto the streets of Manchester to ask, has Paul Pogba wasted his talent?
He did some good dances, and that was it, really. That's what It's great dances, but that's all I remember him for, really. I wished he was good.
He's had a bit of a weird career where he's been up, down, up, down, up, down. Obviously, he scored that hat-trick a few years ago that stopped us winning the league by about 4 days, but it's a waste of a career. I mean, why would you do it? I know he's going online saying, that he's had something that his family friend told him, but he's a pro footballer. You should look after your own body, in my opinion.
He's one of the best midfielders in the world on his day. And just at United, like, he was just plagued by injuries. His attitude at times was a bit... I think he only had one good season with us, and that was when, like, either his first or second season with Mourinho. Yeah, just a waste of talent. He could have been like the next Vieira, I think.
Waste though? Waste of talent maybe?
Yeah, but he's been a waste of talent for a long time, hasn't he?
Oh, absolutely a waste of talent. But I think, just my opinion, of course, I just think he was sort of dominated by the money, and I think his family were involved with him, with money, and it all just, I think he forgot about football and how good he was. His focus was lost. Definitely at Man United as well. I think when they signed him, I was like, oh, here we go. And he showed nothing. He didn't show anything ever.
Probably the two worst fan bases to go to talk about Pogba.
Well, Man United
City
and
fans
Man
don't
City.
like him because he played for United.
Yeah.
United fans don't like him because he did sort of fuck all for United overall.
So Pogba, I honestly think
Go on, Phoebe.
if you ever speak to a footballer, they will always tell you Pogba is one of the most talented players ever. Like, honestly, he could dribble, he could shoot, he could pass, he could do whatever. If you tell him to play in goal, he'll probably be good in goal.
Yeah.
The issue is every time he went to United, they shot him down just like they did with Marcus Rashford.
Yeah.
The difference between Rashford and Pogba is Pogba didn't give a shit. He was like, he actually cared. He was like, cool, if you're going to shoot me down, I won't try. I won't, like, that's the way it seemed like. Maybe because Rashford is from Manchester, he feels a sense of like, he has to give back.
An obligation to it.
Yeah. Pogba, and I'm not going to lie, I would be a certain way like this as well. If I'm coming to your club and I'm having a few bad games and whatever, the pundits are taking me down, the fans are taking me down, I would move like Pogba. And I totally understand it. The drug stuff, not involved. I think if he's found guilty, he's taken it to
He's basically appealed it.
Yeah. I love that word, arbitrations, whatever it is. But away from that, I get why he moved a certain type of way. But also I get why Man United fans are annoyed, but I think they just went about it the wrong way. Like Graham Souness, like, come on. Like,
yeah, he was the subject of a lot of just like he was the centre of, he became like the symbol of that Manchester United era of just they were sort of underperforming compared to Fergie year on year on year. And yeah, he became the symbol of that a little bit. And it was probably unfair on him because
so unfair. Overall,
it's never one player's fault that a team doesn't do very well. When it comes to the drugs, like if he's actually guilty, then it is,
that's whatever.
then it's
not whatever.
I don't know. We don't know how long this was taking place. If it's true, if it feels like it's sort of a like trying to get back, like almost like a desperate one last chance, like make it as like a world beater because he's got to 30 and he's like actually I think if you ask Paul Pogba, he'd be like, he hasn't done what he wants in the game.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
He's won a World Cup, so like fair enough. But he's done more than anyone in this room and most footballers generally.
Won the BT Sunday League.
That's same. I've heard that.
You'll never sing that.
Yeah.
You'll never see that.
You might see Pogba playing for BTs in 4 years.
No, but with that, Pogba, I just felt so sorry for him. Everything he done, he got scrutinised. Any little thing. He would dance. He would show a bit of personality. We're in an era where players are brands. They want to make money away from the pitch. And I'm not saying that he used to do it in stupid times, but also let a player be himself.
Yeah.
Like, he used to play flipping, like, there was one time Gary Neville, he was playing like Quran, which is like Muslim, like, and he was praying before a game. And then Gary Neville was like, why is he doing this before a game? Because he's praying, so he plays well. Like, what else is he meant to do? Like, I just generally feel like anything he done, he was so scrutinised that honestly, sometimes you just clock out and be like, I'll do what I want. I don't care. And honestly, it got to a point where I was like, for Pogba, you know what? I don't blame you because not everyone, but people are against you. And when pundits are against you, people listen because people now think that, all right, this person's a knowledgeable person in sport, so I'm going to just take his opinion and run with it. Not the case. That's why there was so much built up anger on Pogba and so much built up aggression.
He developed a bit of a
cult hating.
Yeah, but he then there's two ways you can react to that. You can like knuckle down and like almost go under the radar. Some people want to just like avoid that criticism, so they sort of don't. Whereas he decided to like break the mold. Like there were certain things that he did which were so obviously
done it for,
like the dyeing his hair blue before the Manchester derby is like, you're not stupid. Like this is not ignorance, and you're like, oh no. Before
No,
this
he
game,
very much
he broke
face
the
to
mold,
face, toe to toe with the people who were.
But
who
he
were going
was
at
a personality. So like during the Premier League, like his time in the Premier League, he made it more interesting. Is what I would say about him. And it's like
100%.
I try not to say this player was bad, this player was good. I hate this player. I love it. Overall, I was more entertained because he was in the Premier League than if he wasn't. If he didn't come over, but he didn't do very well. I think that's pretty unarguable. You can't say that he was a roaring success compared to his perceived potential and perceived rating. He didn't quite hit that heights, but he did do it on the international stage. Like I think when you talk about wasted talent, I think at club football he would agree that he hasn't won as many trophies as he would have wanted to 10 years ago when he sort of was 20 years old. Whereas actually he has done it at international football.
Yeah.
So
it's not. Look, it's also not the worst ever. He won the Europa League with Manchester United.
Yeah.
He won the EFL Cup with Manchester United. He then was a runner-up in the FA Cup and a runner-up in the Europa League.
And became second in the league as well.
It's not. Yeah, in a team that. Well, Mourinho said that was one of his best achievements ever. Yeah. I mean, Mourinho said lots of things, but that is one that stuck with me. I think Paul Pogba almost fits in. I mean, it's not quite to the same levels, but for me, the way that he's viewed is similar to a way that Neymar's viewed.
Agreed.
In that Neymar, to me, was just one of these unbelievable footballers who pissed off a lot of people because he would lie on the floor sometimes. But for me, there was like 5 or 6 years when no one could tackle Neymar. Not a single player could get near him. It was unbelievable, unstoppable. But you talk to most people and they'll be like, yeah, not sure about Neymar. And I see that similar way of Pogba where on his day, obviously, and they weren't, like, the thing was Pogba always played pretty well, but United were still very dysfunctional. Yeah. Lots of different managers coming in. There was always like, how do we unlock Pogba? But it was more like, how do Man United play well again? And we're still seeing it. You know, it's not been solved. So Alex Ferguson hasn't magically come back and solved that problem. So I thought Paul Pogba, whenever he was on that team sheet and Spurs were playing them, I was always worried. And that's what Paul Pogba offered. Because he was a goal threat from midfield. He was also just imposing, this big, strong guy, but also with brilliant feet. It's kind of disappointing, especially coming back what he was at Juve before he came back. Where it's like, wow, there's a real world talent, like world class talent. And the reason you can't play like that at Man United is because what we spoke about earlier, you generally don't get that freedom to play like that.
A lot of it comes down to, again, like, you know what I said about the media bigging you up, building you up. Actually, Pogba was probably one of the biggest victims of that.
Yes.
Where it was just like, at that stage especially, I don't think many Premier League watching fans would have watched Pogba play more than 1 or 2 games in the Champions League realistically. Yeah. All they'd seen is that slow-mo, the YouTube
outside the boot
it's just
goal.
zinging back in. Everyone's seen it and gone, this Pogba's an absolute world beater. He gets built up and it's like the return, the Stormzy announcement video, it just like becomes more and more and more. And he, like, overall, he probably embraced it a little bit with, like, I mean, I wouldn't be dyeing my hair blue. So he had the personality to, like, be a bit like maverick. It was entertaining, but ultimately, when you don't, you don't perform on the pitch to the extent that the media hype is there, and it's almost impossible to live up to the media hype. Yeah, you are always going to be perceived as a wasted talent, even if if they signed him for 10 million and he did exactly the same amount of trophies, played the exact same way, I reckon it'd be like, fucking hell. Paul Pogba, what an absolute steal. They'd have sold him on to Real Madrid, got like 90 million profit for him, and they'd be going, fucking hell.
Are we not seeing like the story of lots of players at Man United in Paul Pogba though? Or the story of lots of what we will probably happen to lots of modern players where you have this real, you start young and you're very, very good for like 6 or 7 years. And then these peak years that people have always considered between sort of 27 and 29, they're not really your peak years anymore because you've become so bogged down by professional football, social media, all these things these days. Because look, Pogba won Serie A 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015.
It's mad.
Coppa Italia twice in that time. He won the Super Coppa. So it's not like that was unsuccessful. They got to the Champions League final with him in. Was that?
Yeah. Cardiff.
Yeah.
Mandzukic overhead kick.
Yeah. he won the World Cup. He then wins the Europa League. He wins the it's only the Carabao or whatever it was called then, probably something else.
Yeah, and I was there, and he didn't deserve to. That's a strike. That one
Zlatan
off.
Ibrahimovic. He's managed to get Southampton again. Tag it. It only took him an hour. And then it kind of falls off. I think that brings it back. Why would anyone go to Manchester United now?
Yeah.
You've watched so many brilliant players. Look at what Di Maria says about it. Alexis Sanchez. Look at all these players.
Even Ronaldo.
Brilliant players. Henrik Mkhitaryan has gone get away and had a very successful career away from. Like there is such a case study to say.
Yeah.
Even Anthony. Like I look at Anthony now. I'm like, I don't know what you offer.
Yeah.
But there was a long time when lots of clubs liked Anthony. So I think
Yeah.
Paul Pogba is a victim of moving to Manchester United and it essentially partly ruining his career. Romelu Lukaku's another one.
Yeah, there's so many.
That's the thing. Like, look, having hindsight now and being able to look back at when most people would have said it started going wrong for Paul Pogba, the fact that now in 2024 you're watching a Man United team putting in the performance that they have done consistently. Like I saw a tweet talking about the game yesterday and saying, how crazy is it that in a Manchester derby, this kind of performance from Manchester United is now normal? 27% possession in three shots or something to 27.
Yeah.
Like it's not hard when you look back now and think, well, we thought that it was Pogba just, playing badly and like wasting his talent then.
And easy to get out of jail then, wasn't it?
Exactly. And now you look at the state of the club and you go,
But just quickly, my last thing on Pogba is I don't want to always put it down to Man United and the club. There's so many external factors.
Cristiano Ronaldo's left recently, right, and said that club isn't different to what
Oh
I was
yeah,
at.
100%. But also, I feel like people around him, family, played a huge part in it.
There's so much unsaid about Paul Pogba, and like that has definitely
There'll
impacted
be a great documentary coming out.
Oh,
5
yeah.
to 10
I remember
years.
there was that really disappointing one that didn't really address it. But yeah, even what happened to him at what happened to him at Juve, where his family were something happened with his brother, and then there was talk of
witch doctors
and things like this.
So like,
there's a lot more to come from that story.
Yeah, and like when you come from a certain background, a certain demographic, and you have this shot up to fame, and you're earning £300,000 a week, there is so many things with family, with yourself, that people don't see happening, and it causes a lot of stress on the players. Sometimes they feel like they have to give back. There's people pressuring them, like, give me money. And it is a lot for one person to take. So I wouldn't always just put it down to Man United. I would think, like, the story about the witch doctor is crazy.
And there's a lot more to come out of those stories, as you said. Like again, it's been said many, many times, but people don't like to take it seriously. Footballers are just humans, and especially when you come from a place where you have lots of family around you, and they expect you to support them, that's stressful. It's stressful for anyone.
Yeah.
So look,
Pogba on the Piers Morgan.
He's tested positive for DHEA, which can basically lift your testosterone. I think he's going, as you said, to the Court of Arbitration to say that there are not mitigating circumstances, basically things that have gone unsaid. We'll see what happens. I hope he gets, because
if he is genuinely just guilty of it, and it is true, footballers do. There was a point there where it's like footballers have a responsibility to manage their own bodies and to manage their intake of certain things.
You know, this happened with Onana as well.
Yeah.
And that was his wife's. It was his wife's anti-sickness. She was pregnant. It's anti-sickness medicine.
Carlo Torre as well.
A couple of those, but he got his ban lessened.
Yeah.
And so let's hope there's some mitigating circumstances with Pogba, because I think it would be a real shame for he hasn't played since August anyway. And yeah. Anyway, to finish the show, it's the quiz we've all been waiting for. Joel, tell us all about it.
We're going to stick with the Manchester Derby theme, and I want you boys to tell me, quite simply, the top scorers in the history of the Manchester Derby.
How many are there?
I've got a list here of 18.
Oh, what the?
I don't think that a lot of them have the same number of goals.
Okay.
I'm not expecting you to get them all.
Okay.
I would love you to give me an accurate top 5.
Okay, top 5.
Is this Premier League era or all time?
This will be Premier League era.
Okay.
Judging by these names. Premier League.
Okay,
Wayne Rooney has to be in
You
there.
think Wayne Rooney? Yeah.
Aguero, I think.
Aguero 100% has to be in there.
I want to go for like early 2000s when like Man United used to always just smoke City. So like maybe like an Andy Cole.
They didn't have a striker for like a long period though.
Yeah.
Like Van Nistelrooy was there for a few
And then-
years.
Didn't Foden get a hat trick in this game last year?
Yeah, Foden.
That's got to put him like quite high on this list now.
I'm trying to judge Joe Smart.
Joel
Joel's
going
a
to
little
give
smart.
us numbers of the top
I'm going
five.
to very, very quickly check. Oh no, okay.
I
That's
think
fine.
like you've got to think Man City were not good in the Premier League era,
Yeah.
and we're not in a lot of the Premier League era as well. So
There's a couple of names up there that would surprise you, but most of them are pretty.
okay, let's try and tick them off then. So let's start. Wayne Rooney,
Wayne Rooney is there, joint top goal scorer with 8.
Love it.
Sergio Aguero.
Is the other top with 8.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So that's the
One
top 2.
on the ones and twos.
Let's
Okay.
go, guys.
So,
Let's go.
So
there.
the next highest is with 7.
7 in the derby.
Cristiano Ronaldo, did he score a lot in this game?
Ronaldo's in the list, but he's nowhere near.
No.
So.
No, near.
I think
Van Persie scored a couple, but wasn't there for very long. He was only
I
there for
kind of
like
want
a
to
year
go
and a
for
half, 2
Kevin
years.
De Bruyne.
You can go for Kevin De Bruyne. if
Haaland,
you like.
no, Haaland's
say
only
it.
played.
Say it.
Go on,
Kevin
do
De
it.
Bruyne.
Kevin De Bruyne is not next. He's on the
Ah,
list, but he's not
boo.
next.
Yaya Toure.
That's who I was thinking of.
No.
Carlos Tevez.
Oh,
He counts on both.
sides.
Doesn't even make the list,
Oh.
according to this.
Didn't like the
love
derby.
love that idea, though.
Yeah,
Going back
he's
to both sides.
double up.
Berbatov.
Peter Schmeichel.
Peter Schmeichel, I'm going to say no.
Played
Berbatov,
for
I'm
both.
also going to say no.
What the hell?
Okay, Ryan Giggs.
Giggs, yeah.
Giggs is a great shot.
Giggs is not on
Scholes.
the list.
Didn't score many goals.
Right,
Scholes.
Scholes is on the list.
In the top 5.
Oh, he scored a big goal against.
Scholes is after this guy that we're trying to guess now. So
Phil Foden.
Scholes has 5, which makes him the joint 3rd highest. Derby
Phil
scorer.
Foden.
Phil Foden is in the list, but is not there.
Rashford.
Is this updated from yesterday, though, do you think?
I checked the date. The 3rd to 2024 is what it said.
Rashford.
So actually, with Foden probably.
Rashford scored a fair few in this game,
Rashford is in the list.
but not on 7 goals.
Not top 5.
No, not top 5.
What
I
about
don't think this is including yesterday's goals.
Tony Marshall?
Tony Marshall is up there.
Oh,
So Tony Marshall is joint with Paul Scholes on 5.
Do you remember when he first came in?
Yeah.
Scored
Liverpool,
a bunch.
yeah, big
A
goals.
bunch of big goals.
There's one big name that you've.
is it Adebayor?
Cantona.
It's Eric Cantona.
Oh, I was thinking that.
Enough.
So
It's weird with Cantona because I don't associate him with goal scoring, but he did score a lot
Scored
of
a lot of
goals.
goals. Yeah.
yeah. So Aguero and Rooney with 8, Cantona with 7, Scholes and Martial with 5. There are at least 2 more on 5, and actually, to be fair, after yesterday, Phil Foden and Rashford
Foden.
are probably up there as well.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. I think we fluffed it. What are the other ones?
Is it Adebayor in there?
No.
Adebayor,
Manuel. He wasn't at City for that long.
Yeah.
He went out on loan a couple
Erling
of times.
Haaland 5,
Oh.
Yeah.
He said Haaland, didn't he?
I did say Haaland.
Yeah.
and then the 4s. You've got Edin Dzeko,
Oh, mate. We should have got
Yeah.
that. Mate, Adam Dzeko was a monster
Yeah,
for Man
he was.
City.
I love Dzeko.
Andre Kanchelskis,
Oh, old school, yeah.
David Silva,
Oh,
also
yeah,
with 4,
Silva.
I thought Silver, and then was like, nah.
Niall Quinn with 4,
Sean Gota,
Baller.
Sean Gota with 3,
Nice.
Darren Fletcher with 3,
Paolo Wanchop.
Fletch loved the big goal.
Cristiano Ronaldo with 3, Yaya Toure with 3, Kevin De Bruyne with 3. And the only other one we missed was Ruud van Nistelrooy with 4.
All right, so look, that's the show. Thanks for watching. That's the show. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to like and subscribe. We've got a couple new games coming this week, so make sure to keep an eye on the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.
Wash.